call the meeting to order. Today is June 13th. It's 5:05. And the first item on the agenda is welcoming our new mayor, Antonio Tony Martinez. Welcome to the board, and we appreciate you coming from the city and representing the city on our board. And we look forward to working with you.
Well, thank you, and I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you. Any other comments from the other board members? That's as basically official welcome as you're going to get.
I wanted a welcome wagon, okay?
And I apologize for this first meeting. Is going to be a long one, so we'll try to shorten it up on the other board meetings in the future. I guess the second item, we're going to recess to a closed meeting to consider matters pursuant to Texas Government Code 551071. Do I have a motion? I have a motion by Mr. Raskin, second by Mr. Nakira. All in favor? Aye. So we're going to be off in a closed meeting, and we'll be back. It's going to be a long executive meeting, so probably
we'll go through it pretty quick. I think probably done less than an hour.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll excuse those people that are not going to be part of the executive meeting. Thank you.
John.
15 to 8, and we'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening. Thank you for patiently waiting for us. We've had a lot of items on our closed meeting, and we just have 2 action items in our closed meeting agenda items, and I'll entertain a motion. One action item is the authorization on settlement with Tesco. So I'll entertain a motion on that. So moved. I have a motion, Dr. Morales, to go ahead and authorize the agreement with Tesco. Do I have a second? Second. Second by Mr. Vasquez. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Any against? Motion passes. Then I have the second item in the closed meeting is the authorization for staff on the purchase of water rights.
Yes, sir. It's a motion to authorize staff to go out and bid on available water rights and bring proposed purchases to the board.
So I need to require a motion on that.
Second.
Second by Mr. Vasquez. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any against? Okay, motion passes.
There were no other items discussed in executive session that, other than items approved by the lawyer.
Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez, for clarifying that. Okay, the next item on the agenda is General Manager Report, Mr. Bruziak.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I've just got a couple of report items here. One is the reservoir leak update, the odor control update by Dr. Carlos Marine, and then a financial report by Leandro Garcia. And those should be pretty quick. We'll start off with the reservoir leak report, and Genevieve is going to give that. As you know, we had a breach in our levee on the dam, and we're going to try to give you an update on that tonight and where we are.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I'm going to give you a presentation of a leak problem that we had back in January at one of our reservoirs. This is reservoir number 1, what we call the old reservoir. You could see the water plant on the bottom part here, and the power plant is on the south side of that. This is the road that goes along the old reservoir, or reservoir number 1. You could see the river on this side, and this is what we call the new reservoir. This is the same area. This is the impacted area that I'm going to be talking about. This is where we have our intake, our pumps to pump water into a reservoir. Back in January, our staff observed that we had a seepage on one of our levees on the southwest corner of the old reservoir. We went ahead and monitored that for about 2 months. And in March HDR performed a first site assessment to determine the seep, whether they were a result of internal erosion or piping, as we call it, within the levee or the foundation of the levee. Some of the potential causes include beavers excavating on the upstream of the face of the levee, and also crawfish into the foundation or the downstream of the face of the levee. And then there's also, and I'll show you the area right now, going back to this area right here. This is the roadway, and this is the area that I'm going to be discussing. Next to the roadway, there's a concrete canal, and also we have some power lines between the roadway and the canal. There's a fence here that I'm going to be referring to throughout the presentation. But the leak that we found back in January was around this area. Right next to the concrete canal, there's some old trees and palm trees, and there's some roots that have penetrated also the levee over time. So back then, we thought that these three potential causes could be part of the problem. So the course of action at the time was to control the beaver population, to monitor the flow rate of the primary seepage. So back in May of 13, HDR performed additional site visits to assess the overall seepage condition. The flow rate was about 4 or 5 times greater than the flows observed at the initial visit. And then May 27, PSI completed the drill services as part of the geotechnical investigation of the levee. And the investigation determined the composition of the levee and encounters the pipe seepage along the south of the levee. We installed a camera, and you could see the beaver in action. This is some of the damage area that we had. You can see the trees and some of the marks on the trees. More marks and more damage. This is one of the affected areas. This is the southwest corner of between the fence and the roadway. You could see the weir that we installed, and this is how we were measuring the leak. We also installed some wolf urine to scare the beavers away. This area is usually dry, and you could see the leak got pretty big here. We also put some mixing tracer to find out how long it would take to get the water from, or the tracer from this area to the leaks, and to find out where it was going to come out. It took about 45 minutes, and it ended up being the southwest corner, which is this right here. We had leaks on the A area, B, C, and D area. There's a concrete structure that goes from the reservoir to the canal. And of course, there's trees and palm trees around the area. And we found a leak that has something to do with that box that's underneath the roadway. So at the beginning, we were looking at installing, drilling some steel piling around the west and the south side, or at an angle. We went ahead and looked at that option. There's also the power poles next to the roadway, between the roadway and the canal. The power poles power the pumps that are at the intake area. So we had to remove and replace them next to the fence area. So we were looking at where along that area we could move them. This is some of the area that needed to be cleared in order to do the work. Remediation solutions: cut off the seepage path by using the steel sheet pile cut-off wall driven from the crest of the levee. HDR performed calculations to determine the required minimum sheet pile section and penetration depth. The current plan is to install 450 linear feet of sheet piling with 400 linear feet on the south end of the levee and 50 feet on the west side at 35 feet deep. PB requested price from 3 different contractors: Blue Iron, Odin Contracting, and JM Construction. Blue Iron is the only contractor capable of using silent piler, and we're proposing using silent piler to effectively install cutoff wall with minimum disturbance to the levee. That's based on the type of soil that we have in that area. Blue Iron performed a site visit last week and is currently preparing a cost and schedule proposal. We're also controlling the exit points of the seepage by placing sand and gravel. We did that last week. And we're also keeping sand and gravel around the area just in case we need it between now and when the work gets done. This is what we're proposing now, the 50 feet on the west side and the 400 feet on this side. We're gonna cover the box that's in this area to cover all the seepage that we have all the way to this end. The power lines that were replaced or moved were from here to here, and now we're gonna move some more all the way to the end around here, and we're gonna place them next to the fence area. Any questions?
Questions from the board? Thank you very much, Gigi, and I want to commend the board for being on top of this issue and keeping the board up to date on what was going on.
Okay. Next is an odor control update. Dr. Carlos Marin is here. Talk about the BioCube program that we have, the BioGuard comparison, and where we are in activity.
Thank you, John. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Mr. Mayor, good evening. What I want to do very briefly is give you a short update on the BioCube program, and particularly the competing product of BioGuards. There's a handout, there's 3 pages to it. The first page is about the objectives. Back in March, the board approved a 2-phase program. The first phase was designed to ensure that the introduction of BioCubes would not cause any impact, a negative impact to the plant. At the same time, allow us to collect data on the performance and the behavior of the system to try to understand how temperature, strength, et cetera, would affect hydrogen sulfide production that would be used in the second phase. And then the third element was more of fairness and equity issue, and that was to allow the vendor time to make sure they had comparable time as the previous provider to ensure that they could optimize their application. And the second phase is where we actually do a scientifically based statistical experimental design that allows us to compare effectively in a scientifically valid way whether option A, which is the BioCubes, or option B, the BioGuards, is the most cost-effective and most performance-efficient product. The last page talks a little about where we are, where we're going, specifically the schedule. Phase 1, which is the initial pilot scale, the sampling plan was developed starting in March. The dosing, the introduction of BioCubes in such a way that you slowly integrate it into the system and slowly remove BioGuard in order to minimize any potential impacts to the plant. There was a blip sometime in April, as some of you may remember. As a result of that blip, we couldn't attribute it to any one particular cause. There's too many factors at the time changing. The ERA projects, some of the capacity for the sludge handling was reduced, increasing BOD levels that could not pinpoint any one particular cause. But as a result of that, what we did was slow down the introduction in a more gradual way. And since then, the superintendent did a great job in bringing the plant up to speed. And since then, we have no problems with the introduction. At the same time, we're collecting data that's going to allow us to then implement phase 2. And we're now, in the middle of June, starting the optimization period. And that optimization period has been going on for 2 weeks. That allow the BioCube vendor to optimize the product and make sure that before we do the testing in phase 2, that he's going to be operating in the most optimal way. We anticipate that in July, we will be then starting phase 2, and the first step in phase 2 is to establish what the performance criteria is going to be used to compare BioCubes and BioGuard. What are we going to measure? It's going to be the average, the median, exceedances, et cetera. The second thing we're going to do is how we're going to sample, the protocols we're going to establish. There's going to have to be consensus on that from all vendors, PUB, and all the parties involved. And the next step, once we've established that, obtain consensus on how we're going to sample, how we're going to compare them, how we're going to measure, then we're going to have vendor contracts that will stipulate what their costs will be in order to implement their product over the next year. And once that's done, we anticipate that'll be done sometime at the end of July. We'll be able to start with the actual testing to compare ThioGuard and BioCube. We would allow it up to 3 months for that. We anticipate that it won't exceed that, it'll probably be less than that. And once that period is over, the testing, we'll then review the data, compile it, analyze it, and write a report that will give a scientifically valid comparison of BioGuard and ThioCube and present it to you to be able to make an assessment. That's all I have for today. If you have any questions, please let me know.
Carlos, I had a question, I guess on the effectiveness testing sampling protocols, that's
Yes, sir.
on both the BioGuard and BioCubes and ThioGuard, correct?
Right, correct.
So they'll be kind of the
Yes,
same criteria.
and the bottom line is that we need to make sure we're comparing apples to apples, and we understand the factors that affect the performance, and make sure that those factors, other than BioCube and ThioGuard, are the same for both, as close as possible, so that the only difference can be attributable statistically to ThioGuard and BioCube, and everything else is comparable, so apples and apples comparison.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
First of all, I want to thank Ambiotech for helping us out with this,
Our pleasure.
with this comparison. But the question I have right now is everything you finally found the correct amount to stabilize everything, or does that April thing kind of upset some stuff?
Yeah, we couldn't really attribute the upset to any one particular cause. There were too many changing factors at the time, as I mentioned earlier. But the plant did, the superintendent and the staff did a great job of bringing the plant back in operations. We're in the second week of optimization. It's something that the vendor himself has to decide what's the most optimal way, and he's in the process of doing that. The plant's stable, working well. Now it's a question of for him to determine what is the most optimal application rate. And that's where we are right now. We anticipate that'll happen for the next 2 weeks and potentially over the July period.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Wayne.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Next, our financial report, Dan.
I'm going to be providing a financial performance overview as of April 30th, 2011. This first outline here provides revenue information. As you can see on the far right, fiscal year to date revenues, net operating revenues on line 3 are $90,886,716. Of which 13.7 million was recognized in April. Adding other revenues and interest and other non-operating income brings a total of 94,561,294. To get to our 10% basis for the city transfer, we back out fuel at 25,879, and our contribution to, as well as the wholesale energy expenses and our contribution to Southmost, which nets out to $64,521,453. The COB 10% calculation as of April is $6,452,146. And from that, we deduct usage of $2.3 million, so the city has received a net cash amount of $4,091,000. Moving along, backing out expenses of total expenses of $31,275 and debt service of $13,278. Brings total requirements of $44,554,155. Deducting this from the $64 million leaves a balance of $17,607,098. This is the balance available to surplus, of which it serves as a source for the city transfer of $4,091,000 and $13,515,000 for the PUB's use. the 13 million has been allocated to CIP and to the Economic Stabilization Fund. 7,350,000, 380 was the annual budget for CIP funding. We went ahead and completed the annual transfer in April, and have allocated or have transferred 1.4 million to the Economic Stabilization Fund, of which 1,250,000 has been transferred to the city. The balance is being maintained in the surplus account improvement fund, 4,706,437. We did have a question earlier as to how this 4.7 compared to April of 2010. In April of 2010, all we had in this line item was the 13,770,000, which within subsequent months was allocated to the Robindale. So in essence, removing that 13,770,000, really we had zero, and we were funding actually four buckets or reserve accounts last year. We were funding the part of the operating reserve still, the fuel sub-account, CIP, and then the economic stabilization. So the comparable number for last year was zero to this, comparable to the 4.7. The next few slides compare on a graph basis, bar chart basis, last year's actuals, this year's budget, and then this year's actuals. You'll see here that on net operating revenues, our budget and actuals are pretty much in line, about 8.7 million over actual 2010. On the gross revenue side, adding in the other incomes, interest and other non-operating revenues, brings our actual to 94.6, a little over the budgeted amount, and a little under the gross revenues. And here again, the gross revenues included that one time source in 2010 that funded the Robindale, that went to Robindale. Adjusted gross revenues, actual this year are 64.5 compared to 55.1 budgeted, and a little under our 2010 levels. Fuel is 7.3 below budget through April, 25.9 versus 33.2 budgeted, and in line with last year's actuals. O&M expenses, I mentioned earlier that we do have a favorable variance as of April of 5.3 million. That's a difference between the 29.9 and 35.2, slightly under the 2010 actual. Balance available surplus, 17.6, of which 13.5 is being retained by PUB, and 4.1 has been transferred to the city through April. Electric is providing the major source, major part of the surplus at 15 million, with water and wastewater contributing a little bit. And all these funds are positive through April as compared to prior years, where we're maintaining slightly below budget and negative balances. The consumption trends here, electric, as of April, for April we had 101 kWh, 101 million, this is in kWh. The 7,685,952 difference here is 1.2% over the 2010 actual level. So since February, we have been trending above the 2010 actuals and the prior five-year average. On water, we were at 638 million gallons for April, well above the 550 April of 2010. Overall, we're about 12.7% year-to-date over the 2010 levels. So we've been able to maintain that trend above the 2010 and the five-year average through April. Same goes for wastewater at 437 versus 378. Wastewater is 10.8% above 2010 levels. Of course, we all know it's been very dry. We're in a drought, and no rain since January, or measurable rain, as compared to last year, where we had rain in December and February, and really stayed above the 1-inch level. We're at zero. We've been at zero February, March, and April, so consumption that you just saw is a reflection of the dry months we've been experiencing. Mean temperatures, as of April, were above the mean in 2010, 81 versus 76. So we're kind of trending above the 5-year and the 2010 temperature levels. Comparison here real quick on with other utilities on the typical 1,000 kWh residential use. We have two bars for each utility here. The yellow one is the 12-month rolling average, and the other one is the month-to-month. As of April, only one other utility is below PUB, which is Amigo at 96.15. All the other ones exceed either 100 or exceed PUB, with the highest being this 118 first choice. Big difference between 118 and 98. So on the 12-month rolling average, we had 3 utilities that fell under PUB. Reliant, nope, not that one. No, we had these two only, 80 Dynawatt and StarTex. Yes, 2. So we're maintaining our competitiveness, which is partly due to the fuel factor. We've had a trend upward since January, but we're beginning to bring the fuel factor down. In January, we were at 4 cents, February at 4.1 cents, March 4.5 cents, April 4.8, and we raised it as a result of some outages, some scheduled outages that our power supply folks had to manage, and we were going to go on the market for purchase power. In May, it did drop to 4.6, and for June, we dropped it to 4.4. Now that the outages have been addressed and things are back to normal.
So I don't mean to interrupt you, Mr. Garcia, but usually on average, we're usually the lowest company in the bills, the electric side, and what we charge.
Yes, we are. We've been very competitive in our local area as compared to the IOUs that do market or that do serve customers in the surrounding area. All this information is obtained through the PUC, so it's it's information that's published and available to the public. We also compare ourselves to other municipal utilities, Austin Energy, City of Public Service, San Antonio, San Marcos, Kerrville, New Brownsville, Bryan, and Denton. We are a member of TPPA, so we collaborate with them and stay competitive. Their source of power, may differ from ours. CPS has nuclear. Others may have more coal. Kerrville or some others may just do PPAs, purchase power agreements. So there is a different. They do have different portfolios. So, but nonetheless, we are munis, and we do try to stay competitive. Our monthly bill of 98 was slightly higher during April than other utilities. As I mentioned, we attribute that to the fuel factor that we had to raise because of the outages. Our 12-month, though, however, is competitive with other utilities, competitive with CPS, with San Marcos, New Braunfels seem to be the only one below PUB's $90, 84 versus $90 per typical bill. Moving on to the CIP, we do have a significant CIP plan, $106 million for 2011 spending plan. We have spent and encumbered or obligated $26.8 million, or 25%. Most of that activity is in the wastewater area because of the ARA funds. Our main funding sources are the improvement fund, the first line, some old bond monies in the next 3 lines, and then we get into the ARA, 9.6, which has been spent on construction projects, and then we have encumbrances or obligations of 6.2. Water expenditures in CIP were 2.6, electric 4.3, and then we have some general activity that's capitalizable, a little over $500,000. Our 46.1 million ARA grant has funded expenditures of 27 million, of which 23 has been reimbursed, 3.5, and as of April, we were awaiting 3.5 million in reimbursements. So we're well above the 50% threshold, where the 27 puts us at 58.6%. Distribution into our water system, 37% came from water plant 2. That was the largest portion here, 36.52 from water plant 1, and 26.2 from our southmost take, which is 91.6, as you see here on the right, and the other participants and their share of the treated water at southmost. Overall, our blended rate is 118, which is very favorable as well. That concludes the April presentation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Garcia, for your financial report. We'll move on to here's your report.
Yeah, that's complete.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bruzia. We'll move on to item number 4. This is audience with Dennis Sanchez representing Madeira Properties LTD in consideration and approval requesting Brownsville Public Utilities Board application for certificates of convenience and necessity for the Madeira properties.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Mayor, board members, my name is Dennis Sanchez. I represent Madeira Properties, which is the owner of approximately 1,400 acres that's located at the intersection of Highway 100 and Highway 77. The southern portion of the tract begins right across from Rancho Viejo and goes up to that intersection and then goes over to the east, about 3 miles. We are in the process of trying to start development of the property, and we need to get sewer service. We met with Mr. Bruziak several weeks ago, I think about 5 weeks ago, and we are trying to, we're asking that we be allowed to annex into the city of Brownsville for the purpose of PUB being able to provide electric power to our property, as well as sewer. The CCN currently is allocated for sewer to East Rail Hondo, and they've provided Mr. Bruzak a letter that says that they are not interested and they're willing to waive their CCN in relation to the sewage service. So the purpose is to see if we could advance the proposition of trying to obtain both electric and sewage service to this tract in question.
Thank you, Mr. Sanchez. Is there any questions from the board, or is that pretty much covered?
That's pretty much it.
Okay.
Is there a development plan that you all have put out?
There's a master plan that was developed about 4 years ago. It's on the internet, but right now we have the ability to sell 40 acres to an educational facility, which is waiting to see if they can obtain the electric power from PUB. So this would be the first step toward the eventual development of that whole tract of land.
Dennis, has it changed from what you have on the internet at all?
No, sir.
Okay. What's the site?
www.madeiraproperties.com.
Any further questions from the board? This is an action item, and there is a recommendation from staff that they recommend approval of this request. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Motion by Dr. Morales on recommending the approval of the request. Dr. Morales? Yes?
Yes.
Okay, second? I have a second on this recommendation.
What is the cost going to be for PUB owners to extend the service?
Well, there's no cost to PUB. Whoever does that will either be the
The
developer
developer or?
or whoever buys the property.
I second.
We'd be just trying to get the CCN to serve it.
I second.
Okay, second by Mr. Nájera. Any discussion?
Okay. John, make sure I understand what we're doing here. In other words, this is a motion for just the request for that.
For the CCN.
Okay, and so what happens after that?
Then we can serve it, and then they would have to comply with our policies to get service.
Okay, but is this without, in other words, not for any other reason, but I mean, this is, without looking at the master plan, in other words, all we have is what's on the internet at this point? I mean, or
Yeah,
have you all looked at it?
I haven't even seen that, no.
Okay.
I know where the property is. The property we were talking about was a school site across from Rancho Viejo that is in the city limits. And then we talked about the additional property, if it was annexed by the city, we could apply for a CCN, and that's what he's requesting for the electric, but we haven't seen the development or the plans.
Mr. Mayor, if I can make a comment on that. I believe that there have been two sets of engineers who have looked at this property and have gauged what the estimated capacity will be needed for the full development of the property. And in their discussions with the PUB personnel, they formulated the capacities that would be needed. So once the approval of the CCN is approved, then when we come, when our turn to build the sewage system, we have to build it to that anticipated capacity. So it's going to be on our nickel.
No, and I understand that, and again, do we know what the cost will be? I mean, other than whatever, it just seems like I would like to see more numbers if I could. You know, I don't know if that's, I'm not questioning anything.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, what is the cost and what's the ability of, you know, whoever you represent? In other words, what are their capabilities? I just.
Well, that's the next step. But we can't proceed until we know that PUB's willing to provide the service. At that point in time, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Brusiak, but you.
That doesn't, obligates us to serve it if they comply with our policies.
And the estimated cost of running that sewer line was approximately $1.9 million.
That's up to Rancho, and that would be big enough to service that whole area.
But who will pay for that? PUB?
No.
We just-
Whoever the owner or developer.
So this will be at no cost to PUB?
Yeah, just the cost of applying for the CCN, which we do every day anyway.
Which is how much?
I don't know, John, what does it cost for a CCN?
I'd say around 5,000.
$5,000 usually.
Will that be included to?
No, we do that for every customer that comes in.
What is the long-term value of this project for PUB?
Oh, it's huge on the electric side. The wastewater side, of course, is not glamorous, but it's the big bang is on the electric side, and it develops that whole area out there for future growth. The big development is on the electric side.
Is there a certain time given to them to build, to develop, so it won't be?
Yeah, I think you were talking 10-year build-out or somewhere along when we talked. It's probably not going to happen right away.
The sewage line would be built within 12 months.
Okay, is there any further questions? This is an action item. I do have a motion and a second.
I mean, so then how does that work? I mean, if our payoff is on the electrical side, not necessarily on the wastewater side, and if let's say,
Well,
if Part A is built but not Part B.
Well, they're going to pay our rates for sewer, and they're paying for all the infrastructure, so we've got our revenue stream coming in there that we don't have to pay anything back.
And we'd be servicing that educational facility as
Yeah.
well from an electrical standpoint.
Yes.
So it's a win-win situation for us.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have a motion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any against? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 5, presentation by Aquametrics on water meters. Mr. Bruce.
Yeah, this is a request to, this company, Aquametrics, has some special type water meters. They wanted to make a presentation. I know we're going into an AMI program. Heard about that and just wanted to show us tonight what they have and if it could ever apply to PUB.
Is this a company we've worked with before, or?
No.
That's just a presentation.
Chairman, Mayor, board members, we appreciate your time. My name is Dustin Laughlin. I'm the regional manager for Aquametric. We're the exclusive distributor for Census USA. Census is a manufacturer of water meters, electric meters, and gas meters. And I appreciate the opportunity to come in and express to you this new technology, as mentioned, as you proceed forward with your plans to investigate an AMI system. And presentation before last, listening to the fact that, the usage numbers are up, you want to make sure that your water meter naturally is most accurate. And this meter truly is revolutionary technology. Previous technology was more of a mechanical meter, positive displacement. I know that's the meter that you purchased, or the mechanical meter that you purchased years past. This meter is truly a digital meter. It has no moving parts. It's warranted for 20 years. In your packet, you'll notice a revenue calculator. And that's in comparison, a new meter, a new iPro meter, which is the meter here on display, versus a new positive displacement meter. And with the new technology, ultimately, you're looking at flow or pickup at 0.03 gallons per minute with this new meter, whereas the predecessor is a quarter gallon. When you extrapolate that out over 50,000 meters roughly, your meter population on the residential side, you're talking about $40 million in increased revenue over the life of a project, and most AMI projects are slated at a 20-year deployment. And so as you go forward and you make your decision looking at the AMI deployment, certainly you're going to want to look at an item like this revolutionary meter to help pay back the investment. And obviously this meter does that, and then some at double the return at the $41 million you'll see on that revenue calculator. As I mentioned, there are no moving parts, and so what that means is that there's no wear on the meter. And what Census has done is they've guaranteed that meter again at 20 years at that accuracy level at 0.03 gallons per minute. Right? That coincides with the radio that they also manufacture and that we sell through our local distribution here in Brownsville, Agua Works Pipe and Supply, as well as the system that actually pulls the data through. And so as you've reviewed AMI systems, you're probably familiar with the technology. And simply an additional item in the packet is a trial letter that I've written. We would like to present this opportunity for you to take the meter on our nickel and place the meter into your system, really put our money where our mouth is and show you this new technology that's really revolutionizing this industry. Frankly, point out a few reference accounts nearby. The city of Laredo, the city of McAllen, the city of Edinburgh have all put the meter in. Recently we were just awarded the AMI project in the city of Arlington, Texas, which is the largest AMI water-only deployment, over 100,000 meters in the history of the state. So we're very, very proud of that. They'll be putting the iPro in as well. And additionally, the city of Albuquerque, another project that was recently awarded to us. And so our offer to you, certainly we would like Brownsville to take advantage of the technology to help pay for the project you're looking at moving forward, much like these references I just mentioned, would be to, again, offer all of the components free to you at no charge to come in and trial the product so that you can begin to reap the benefit and know the technology really is there to help pay back the investment you'll make in the project moving forward. Okay? And for the sake of time, that's really all that we've got to cover. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those, and we can pass the meter around. As I mentioned, there's no moving parts. This is the flow tube. Jeremy, I don't know if you'd like to just let them see the flow tube, and you can take the meter to them.
Question, Mark. You would have to replace the meters that they have right now, and
You would.
like the old mechanical meters, and put this in place?
Yes, sir, you sure would.
And does that 20-year warranty, does it cover the transceiver? It has a little transceiver also, right?
We have a radio that plugs in to the meter as well. There's a 20-year battery life on that as well, a warranty.
Oh, no, okay.
Yeah. And what Census, the great thing is that Census with the new technology, years gone by, you had a 15-year warranty, but it was 1 year new meter accuracy and then repaired meter accuracy that stepped down over the next 2 through 15 years. Census is guaranteeing new meter accuracy that's at 0.03 gallons per minute over 20 years. The industry's never seen any warranty like this. I mean, it's a guarantee at that flow rate, and that flow rate and range is what's depicted in the revenue calculator at the $40 million. So you asked about replacing the existing meters. Keep in mind the meters that are in the ground today in your system are going to be used meters, and so the accuracy, obviously there are going to be deficits from those meters compared to a new meter out of the box, it would be the old technology, the mechanical meter, the positive displacement. That study or the revenue calculator is based on a new positive displacement in comparison to this meter.
As far as your meters, would they be compatible to PUB as far as the smart meters, as far as the readings and all that?
This is a smart meter, and we are compatible to other systems, so you're not just relegated to using the census system. Now, I'll point out with this meter, the meter actually is able to be monitored on an incremental basis down to 15 minutes. Never seen before either in the industry, and that's really with the digital meter. So now we brought that down into the realm of the electric meter, so you can, from a conservation standpoint, if you wanted to monitor this meter like you do an electric meter in 15-minute increments, you could do that through our system. But we are compatible to other systems as well. And the offer we've made is to give you a chance to look at this, taking advantage of that 15-minute increments, if you like, with the full system. But we can work with another system, certainly.
Thank you very much for the presentation, and appreciate you taking the time. This is no action item on this one.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the presentation. Item number 6, quarterly investment activity report for period ending March 31st, 2011, pursuant to Chapter 2256-023 of the Public Funds Investment Act. Mr. Garcia.
Apologize for the delay. We did hand out an updated or revised portfolio, and I'm going to be just going over some of the basic schedules. As required for the Public Funds Investment Act, we are to report to the board on a basis no less than quarterly concerning our investment portfolio. This report is as of March 31st. We got the investments here outlined by major category. The first category being agency securities. We have a total of $56,500,000 in par value, $56,555 in market value in agency securities, representing 39.07% of our portfolio. And here again, we highlight the percentage makeup. We are pursuant to the PUB's investment policy required not to exceed 75% in certain categories, so that we can continuously have a diversified portfolio and avoid concentration in certain instruments. Our yield hasn't been very, I'm trying to find a word.
Positive.
Very positive. It's been very gloomy. Yields are ranging here from 0.35%, 35 basis points, up to 1.2%. So we're earning very little. We're trying to maintain, an outlook here, trying to go out 2 years or a year, depending. We don't want to commit to a 3-year and then rates go up. So it's one of those things where you got to monitor regularly as investments mature. We do maintain, the second category here is a deposit in Wells Fargo, 18.8 million, accounting for 13%. We do earn, through their current contract, an earnings credit which is based on the 91 T-bill plus 25 basis points. And we've been at 40 basis points, or 0.4%, in the last quarter. So that's earning us a little bit here. The pools is another way to invest. We got several pools here, some on a daily basis, some on an extended term. Those account for 44.1%. We got 63 million as of April, and those are earning very, very low rates, 15 basis points, 26 basis points, and they have gone down since. My June report's going to be even gloomier. We do have 4 million in the CDARS program with Frost Bank. That's the certificates of deposit account registry system. These are managed through various banks, but they're maintained within the FDIC coverage. So the CDARS program provides communities with that opportunity to invest good chunks of money, but maintain FDIC coverage. Those have been bringing in 38 basis points, 48 basis points. One of them will mature in August, and the other one we acquired in March that goes through 2013. And the last series of investments is a U.S. Treasury note that we will be expiring very soon. That was bringing us 1.08%, and that was $1.5 million with a market value of 1,503. Overall, our portfolio is 144 million, 771,201, earning a total average yield to maturity of 45 basis points. The makeup here again, to recap where our money is or how it's diversified. We do have 39.07 in agencies, bank deposits 13%, CDs 2.76, 105 in U.S. Treasury notes, and 44% in the pools. We do obtain information on how other governmental investment pools are doing. The blue line here is the S&P rated government investment pool index. We are maintaining a yield, an average yield above that indicator. So it's just adds a little comfort that we're doing a little bit better than those pools. Not sure exactly what the instruments, and they do capture different types of instruments as pools. With only certain investment instruments available to municipals, we feel it's very comparable. That is the portfolio report.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia, for that positive report. I know you're doing your best in employing our funds, and it's not your fault that we're in such a quandary with our economy, but you're doing your best. Thank you. Item number 7, consideration approval of resolution to appoint a depository bank. Mr. Garcia.
Okay, we did go out on April 13th for some, on April 13th, the purchasing office received proposals for bank depository services. We did get proposals in from Frost Bank, JP Morgan Chase Bank, and Wells Fargo. We had an internal team analyzing various criteria that was used to rate the depository banks. We gave a briefing to the Finance Committee and are here today with a recommendation on the depository services. Our objective here, just briefly, is to advance the responsible investment of and cash management of PUB funds, provide safety and security, preserve the capital, meeting requirements of the investment policy, a few Texas Government Code statutes, and at the same time obtain all these services at the best possible price. We did go out, as I mentioned, and sent out the package to 10 banks and got 3 responses. This agreement is an overall 5-year agreement, of which the first 3 years will be set from October 1, 2011 through September 30th, 2014, with 2 one-year continuations. And this is similar to what we're currently in agreement with the current provider. We did secure their services in 2006, and 2011 is the 5th year. So the current agreement does expire September 30th. BPOB was seeking a firm that could provide the best possible service at a reasonable cost that met the provisions of Chapter 105 of the Local Government Code addressing depository banks, 2 sections of the Texas Government Code which address the Public Funds Investment Act and the Collateral Act. We like to have somebody who's attentive to PUB. If we have problems, we like to pick up the phone and deal with somebody who knows our business and can respond timely, and who has demonstrated financial strength and stability. The evaluation criteria included 9 different areas here: ability to perform, the reputation, cost of service, funds availability, and all these were provided a weight. The interest paid, earnings credit, which was a very important one, the completeness of the bid, the convenience of locations, the financial strength and stability. We rated each of these criteria 1 through 5, and then applied the weight. Just the general services here that were being requested, got 16 items here. Some were concentrating on fraud prevention, others on just service and timeliness and computer or internet type of accessibility around the clock. ACH debit blocking is a very important fraud feature. We want to block anyone trying to debit our accounts. So we do have a feature that, we need a feature that actually gives staff the go-ahead opportunity there before it hits our accounts. Deposit pay, online services, lockbox is a major one, since we do process bill payments through lockbox. Post notes checks, reconciliation, collateralization. Employee check cashing is an important one, even though we don't issue checks to employees, but we like to have employees deal with a bank that is employee friendly. Account analysis, same-day credit, interest-bearing, disbursements, direct debit, bank statements. A few other type of services that are important. Key were the collateral requirements. We want to make sure, as I mentioned, we were keeping $18 million, and the current provider, we want to make sure that they collateralize as needed, or if there's a FDIC program out there that automatically collateralizes it, that we can work with either one. Investment activities, when we go out to purchase agency securities, we need a third party to actually secure, serve as safekeeper. Overdraft protections or provisions are important, other stipulations. The fee schedule categories that we asked the banks to respond to included balance and compensation information, general account services, lockbox, payroll, and as you can see, different categories that they responded to. On the earnings credit, since our intent is to cover as much as we can the monthly service fees with what we earn on the account, on balance, is important. In this example, for example, if the current rate proposed for an earnings credit is 1% and we maintain a $10 million balance, then and we have a zero requirement, then based on the number of days that we maintain this balance, and usually it's calculated on a monthly basis, so this 1% would get divided into 365 and applied to the number of days. So in this case, we would be earning $8,400, so we would hope that this would be sufficient to cover the bank services. This is just to give you an example on how the earnings credit works. These are the 3 banks, Frost Bank, JP Morgan Chase, and Wells Fargo, and their earnings credit offers here. Total estimated charges, Frost Bank were $15,160 on a monthly basis. Chase 18 and Wells Fargo 10, set $377. The earnings credit is calculated were $3,008, $9,598, $10,657, leaving net charges that would actually be, paid from PUB cash on hand of $11,000, $8,000, and actually this would be a credit. The way they got to the earnings credit here is through an offer here of 40 basis point, 0.4% from Frost Bank, and this was pretty much tracking the 91-day T-bill plus 25 basis points, and in this case, I presume it was 15 the 91-day T-bill was 15. J.P. Morgan Chase offered the higher of 1% or the 91-day T-bill plus 25 basis points. They also required a 60-day notice. So in order to switch over to the most beneficial, we would need to give 60-day notice. We would be required here to on an ongoing basis, track what the 91-day T-bill is and anticipate, it being better than the 1%, so we could accommodate the 60-day notice with ample time. Wells Fargo offered a 1% or the higher 1% or the 91-day T-bill plus 25 basis points with no notice. They would automatically, as a T-bill, goes up and exceeds the 1%, after adding 25 basis points, they would switch us over. So the 1% would be, in essence, the floor. We would never drop below 1%. So those were the three earnings credit rates as compared to the monthly cost and then the net cost to PUB. I'm going to go over some of the pluses and weaknesses here from each bank. Frost Bank was responding to all the required service. They demonstrate technologically advanced fraud prevention services. Their earnings credit rate was 40 basis points, as I mentioned, on the example, the 91-day plus 25, and they were offering $2,500 in supplies. Some of the points that were non-responsive, they could not provide or accept payments at bank branches from our customers. That was something we were, asking the banks to offer. We thought about, contemplated situating payment kiosks at the banks that they couldn't do. By the way, I don't think any of them did this payment kiosk. The overdraft protection was interesting. We were hoping to have a collective coverage. As I mentioned, we were keeping $18 million with our current provider in like 20 accounts distributed. We'd like for them to look for overdraft protection on all the accounts collected. Not that we'll ever, bounce any checks, but in case there is an account that for some reason timing is expected to have a disbursement from, and the funding isn't there, we'd like for the entire set of accounts to be considered, not just on a collective basis, not just on an account-by-account basis. So that was something we looked at. And then we do perform some of the IT functions in evenings, weekends, depending on the season, the week, a holiday, for whatever reason, and we encounter situations where we may need 24/7 IT support. So that was not offered there.
Mr. Garcia,
yes.
if I can interrupt you. I know that we've got a lot of other items to discuss, and we did spend a lot of time, Mr. Nájera and myself, going over this depository.
Go last page?
Yes, please, if you could summarize.
I hear you. Here's our recommendation.
Thank you.
Wells Fargo, 142.3 points, 123.3 for Chase, and 113.4. So our recommendation is to, here again, award a contract to our current provider, which has demonstrated and scored very well in the RFP.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia. I know that you and your staff put a lot of work in this, and the PUB does require a lot of services, and you all have always done an excellent job in maintaining good relationships with the banks, and so I think this analysis is a very good analysis. Mr. Nakano, you have any other point that you'd like to make?
No questions, I'd just like to go straight to the recommendation.
Okay, so this is an action item. Do I have a motion for approval on the depository contract?
I'll make a motion to go with Wells Fargo as recommended by staff as our depository.
Have a second, second by Dr. Morales. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any against? Okay, motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Garcia.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Item number 8, consideration approval to provide commercial paper funding for water and wastewater capital improvement projects for the period of January 2011 to June 2011. Mr. Garcia.
This is our quarterly report to the board where we keep you informed of our commercial paper funding requirements on a quarterly basis. For this quarter, we are asking to approve a reduction of $332,000, going from a $22,914 previous authorized CP funding to $22,582. Housekeeping.
This is an action item. I have a motion for approval as to staff's recommendation.
So moved.
Moved by Dr. Morales, second by Mr. Vasquez. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Aye. Any against? Motion passes. Item number 9, consideration approval of a contract with Utility Works Consulting LLC for advanced metering infrastructure project consulting services. Mr. Hernandez.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, what we're going to do is a small presentation to kind of bring you all up to speed on the AMI pilot project, and it will be discussing items, in that we will be discussing items 9, 10, and 11, and then we can proceed to action or any questions that you all have. With me is Mr. Dale Pennington from Utility Works Consulting.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Mayor, council members, I just want to very briefly kind of catch you up. I know most of you have been very active and very supportive of the project, so we're kind of at that contract. Everything's ready to move forward, but a quick briefing since we have some new members. Let's see. Okay. This one, right? So basically, just go to the summary, where we are to date, contract overview, what the contracts are. We've already gone through legal, got them all prepared. A quick review of the budget that's been put together for the pilot, the goals and objectives, the benefits and realization timeframes that we're looking for, and when we'd be kicking off this project. So it's been a lot of effort from your staff on this. Basically, just to refresh everyone, back in March 2010, the board did approve going forward with the pilot for the order of approximately up to $1.5 million and proceed with the RFP, request for proposals. The RFPs were split up to multiple vendors, primarily to lower the cost of the utility. You basically break up the contract, so we segmented from the AMI, meters, transmitters, meter data management system, and installation contracts. 10 were selected. 10 were received, 4 were interviewed, and the 2 finalists were Tantalus and Cooper, which also had the opportunity to present to you, and we selected Cooper back in January of 2011. Basically on the contracts, they're set up for the 3 structures I just mentioned. One is for Cooper Power, who will be providing the AMI network design and architecture, the communication network throughout the city. Harris North Star is the provider in in a structure where they'll provide us the meter data management system as sort of a lease for the first year. If we decide to go forward, we can purchase the system later. They'll do all the meter data management components. And then Utility Works, who you've all worked with for the last year, will be doing the design, architecture, future business processes, and workflow analysis, and all the testing and design and implementation of the pilot and design for the full-scale deployment.
One thing that I would point out here is we did choose North Star, which is a Harris company. Harris also owns, is the mother company for the current billing system that we use, so they're compatible.
So then the contracts are really broken up to the 3 different components. So there's the AMI component, there's the MDM, and the consulting side, which came up with a total of a little over $1 million. And the right side is the full deployment categories of what we've already been working forward for the full deployment. I did mention many times that once we go to full deployment, there's areas that we can negotiate and reduce the costs. So there's a couple areas that we're able to pull that down and make that a little bit lower for you, probably in the order of a couple $1 million.
One thing that I would point out here is we did choose North Star, which is a Harris company. Harris also owns, is the mother company for the current billing system that we use, so they're compatible. So then the contracts are really broken up to the 3 different components. So there's the AMI component, there's the MDM, and the consulting side, which came up with a total of a little over $1 million. And the right side is the full deployment categories of what we've already been working forward for the full deployment. I did mention many times that once we go to full deployment, there's areas that we're able to pull that down and make that a little bit lower for you, probably in the order of a couple $1 million.
The pilot's goals and objectives are just the planning, development, oversight to bring in a pilot, an AMI, MDM, truly test all the functionality, engage the customer base, show them what the data looks like, look for all the loss categories that we can correct through the pilot stage. Go through also all the business processes. So, of course, when you have new technology that creates alarms and notifies you of events and communicates at a much higher level, we have to map out all those future business process streams, get the staff within your organization comfortable with it, increase their bills and the accuracy of the bills themselves, test the various assumptions we put on the business case, where would you benefit, water revenue increases, electrical line loss decreases, and really give the staff a chance to get immersed and get comfortable with these systems. They really need a pilot to get fully comprehending all the benefits that this will entail. Let Eddie talk about this real quickly.
Yeah, basically a quick overview on the pilot itself. The pilot is about, I'm trying to remember, I think 500 meters, 500 electric meters and about 200 water meters. So when we talk about pilot, that's what we're looking at. We do have to bring in some of the systems online in order to look at the benefits. The area that we would be looking at, on the residential side, we'd be looking at Brownsville Country Club. On the water-only area, we'd be looking at Lakeway. We wanted to pick an area that was away so that we can test the water only and also test the communications, back to the main system. On key accounts, basically the area that we're looking at focusing the combined electric and water installation would be the Paredes Line Road 802 area, where the HEB is there, T-Mobile, the Brownsville Event Center, Americo Paredes Elementary. We did have a number of key accounts that have expressed interest. Obviously, BISD. We've had some others like HEB, T-Mobile, Trico. There've been there are other key accounts throughout the city that are interested in participating. And there's also an apartment complex there, which is a high turnover account that we want to test some of our, especially the remote connect, disconnect features. So that's the area we'd be looking at. Again, it's about 500 electric meters and about I want to say 200 to 300 water meters. And we can add other meters here and there. So obviously there are, if any of y'all are interested, please let us know. We'd be happy to include you in the pilot because it's going to affect, it's going to directly affect y'all and our customers. And what a better way to, to be able to answer those questions.
Okay, I did also want to reference also the 10 companies census, which was talking to you tonight, was referenced in the original proposals. They did participate in the RFP, but due to some of the cost issues, they were eliminated from consideration. But I just want to let you aware that they were participants within the project itself. Really, our focal point, once we get this up and running, is some of these key issues, which you're all pretty much aware of, is it's monitoring the accuracy every day. How much are we producing? How much are we selling? Look for the unaccounted for products, which can be both water and electrical line losses. There's tremendous work going on right now on line loss analysis programs and becoming very, very cost effective. So focusing on those electrical losses and trying to help reduce losses there. Basically look at the water meter increase, the revenue. This is on the whole project as it goes forward. Looking for the recovery of the water loss at $2.8 million, improve customer service productivity by at least 30%. We probably do better that, knowing how well Eddie works. And then look at the potential savings, at least $10 million a year that you guys have seen before and that we've represented to you. And really getting people to understand what their bills are and how they use energy, and getting into a potential time of use mode of operation on selling electricity in the future. So if you remember the final cost analysis, if we were kind of the minimal level on the project, we'd be saving somewhere in the order of $4.8 million. High effort, get things done a little faster, integrate products more quickly. We're looking at $10 million savings over 3 years, and then up to $18 million in the end for the 3-year effort. And just to give you an idea, if we kick off, we're a little behind. We were going to be here last month, but we're here this month, so that's more important. And start the project in June, so I got to shift those a month on you, but look at having everything out in the field and running correctly and fully tested by really August, September of next year, and have the project running full steam. Okay, so thank you very much. If there's any questions, we're ready.
I'm going to ask, I guess, a question. I know you're the experts, but I saw your pilot customers, they're big customers, right? So if we mess up, they get the benefit, right?
they'll get benefit in certain ways. One, will really know what their usage, so you guys can measure that, but also help them with power factors, showing them how their bills are produced.
And the reason I say that, I'm just saying is that, we're testing and we have a big volume customer, I just want to make sure that we don't really mess up on the big volume customer, because, those are good customers, and we don't want to mess them up.
We won't do it here.
Yeah.
We're very, very thorough in our testing and design work, so.
Okay, I just want to make sure that we're all.
Absolutely.
And there's a broad spectrum. The majority of those 500 meters that we were talking about will be residential meters. We do want to test some of the larger, we really do want to, we don't want to run away from the issues. What we want to do is attack them directly. That way, when we go to implementation, hopefully throughout the city, we will have already tested the schools. We will have already tested HEB. We've already stumbled on the, if we're going to stumble, we'd rather do it on those things and learn from it before we implement it, citywide. We want to be sure that we include them in the mix so that we address those things directly.
I understand. Thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah, on the water meters, as far as the pilot program, that's going to cost me X amount of dollars.
Very low number. It's actually, some of the meters already been installed. There's new meters that were brought into the city some time ago. You've had a pretty good aggressive replacement policy over the last year or two. So those meters, all they really need is the transmitter. You won't actually physically have to replace the water meter again for many of the areas.
I saw that it was like $20,000 or something.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, and Gigi may be able to help us out, in the last 3 years in the water meter replacement program, I believe it's about 20,000 meters that were replaced?
15,000, 12,000, something, somewhere in that range.
Okay, there are a significant number of meters that have already been replaced that are new. So we'll be, one of the issues is that we wanted to kind of try and focus on some of those. And then we'll also be hitting some of the older meters that have already been in place.
Are those meters at 12,000 you replaced, do you have to put a?
Yeah, we'll just need to replace the top part of the meter, the transmitter.
On that, say we go also with a pilot program with the company that just made a presentation, could we compare both meters at that time with a pilot program, looking at both of them?
We could, but there are a couple of issues there. One is the legal side. My understanding is that we do have a contract with Badger Meters, so I don't know how that affects that. So that would need to be looked at, because the board did approve that contract for a year, and I don't remember exactly when that was approved, but that's one issue. The second issue is we would need to make sure that there was compatibility between, that their system could report back to our communication system.
And you don't have that information right
No, at this point in time, we don't have that. Basically, this demonstration from them was kind of caught us a little bit off guard.
I'm just looking at, get a good product, and as far as a 20-year guarantee,
Sure.
Replacement and all, it sounds pretty good for PB, I would think.
Well, there's a lot more to it than getting meters. There is part of the integration between the iPearl and the communication methodology that Cooper does. That's not certified, so someone's going to have to spend the money to do all the testing, certification, look at the life cycle on the battery itself, because now you have two different devices, and they have to grab data out of the one meter, and until you go through the testing, you can impact the battery life of the meter transmitting device. So there's quite a rigorous process you have to go through for the life cycle and certification, and sometimes it can invalidate the warranty of one of the products because they haven't done the commercial testing and really gone through the full process of certifying that these things are compatible.
Weren't we looking at the compatibility of the electric and the water together? Wasn't that part of the communication?
Well, as the communication from a water meter, there's a lot. One thing that Cooper has done, they purchased and they worked in conjunction with a company called Datamatic. So they bought all the protocols and architecture design to read data from different encoders. So I am not aware that Cooper has certified or has done any testing with that meter. It's coming into the market, it's new, but someone will have to do that, and that has to be certified before you'd ever want to put it out in the field and see if that's been completed.
We have this is
I got it.
This is Mr. Stephen Cower. He is the vendor representative from Cooper, so he'd be able to answer that question directly.
Right, hi guys. We have always worked with all the major water meter manufacturers. The bulk of our customers currently use Neptune, Badger, and Census water meters, and we work currently with all three meters. The Census meter that we're working with that's most predominantly deployed is, it's a more standardized technology, and it is a mechanical meter. And the technology that you were presented tonight it's an impulse meter that, as he mentioned before, doesn't have any moving parts. All of the major meter manufacturers are looking at this technology, and we are committed to working with that technology as it becomes more mainstream. As Dale mentioned, there's a lot of implications to how the device reads. It needs its own electrical power, so it has to have its own battery. Our transceiver has its own battery, so we have to look at, do we have two batteries? Does it need power from our battery, or do we use power from its battery? And there's a lot of implications about battery life and how long the battery will last. You can guarantee that the meter's going to last a long time, but with a water meter, it has to have that power. And you take any battery and put it out there for 20 years, it's a very long time for any technology, and it's very hard to test. We've got access to battery technology, state-of-the-art battery technology. We're constantly looking and reevaluating how we use that technology and what batteries we're going to use. So we're carefully looking at this, and as our customers ask for this technology, we're looking at how we integrate to it and what we're going to do. If our customers start moving to this in a wholesale fashion, we're going to integrate to it, because we won't, we're not a meter manufacturer. We're a network and communications AMI provider, so we're going to integrate to these different meters, electric meters and water meters. And we currently are very active. We're a business partner with Census, and they're the manufacturer of that meter. So we don't offer it today, but we are looking at it, and if it truly pans out and the market adopts it, we're not going to integrate to it unless a lot of people adopt it. But if that happens, then we're going to integrate to it, and we're going to be able to communicate with it. And we're going to do it whether it's Census, Badger, Neptune, or all three of them. It's one of the things that, we really talked about when we talked to Brownsville, when we talked to all of our customers, is that we like to provide our customers the ability to buy from multiple meter manufacturers. We don't want you to say, if you go with our technology, you can only buy one meter for the next 20 years. It's a big investment, so we want to give you the freedom to, evolve as technology evolves. So,
Thank you for that explanation. I appreciate it. There's been a lot that's gone into the process, and here we are tonight. Is there any further discussion?
We're just here to answer any questions. Otherwise, we'll move straight to the items.
Okay, this is an action item, the staff recommendations approval of a contract with Utility Works Consulting for an amount not to exceed $626,720. I entertain a motion.
So moved.
Moved by Dr. Morales. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Garcia. All in favor? Aye.
Discussion.
Chuck? Yes.
The agreement says the word owner several times, yet Mr. Hernandez's name is on there, and so is John Brusiak. Has that been?
The contract has been reviewed multiple times by our attorneys.
Has been, okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay, is that,
Yeah, and when they say owner, they're referring to the Brownsville Public Utilities Board.
okay, so, all in favor?
Aye.
Any against? Motion passes, thank you. Item number 10, consideration approval of a contract with North Star Utility Solutions for the MeterSense Meter Data Management System Pilot Agreement.
This is one of the items that we were discussing. This is the system that will act. What's going to happen now is, rather than taking a read once a month from the electric and the water, you'll be taking a read once every 15 minutes from the electric meters and once an hour from the water meters. So the amount of data just is massive compared to what we used to get. The meter data management system is a system that will actually receive all of this data and then pass the proper data to the billing system and to the other systems and manage all of that. What we're doing here is a little bit different. If we were to outright buy this product, it would cost us about $250,000. Or I'm sorry, it would cost us about $520,000. What we're doing is, because we're in a pilot phase, they're going to host it for us. We're opting to host it on our machine because we want our people to be able to work on it and use it and learn it, rather than having them host it 100%. So basically, we're kind of like leasing it for $85,000. We will then get a $10,000 credit at the end if we choose to go forward with the product. But what this does is mitigate the risk in case we decide not to go, if the board should decide not to go with the full-blown project. So our option here is to do the lease for $75,000 plus the $10,000 to install it on a PUB server. The server will be purchased by PUB at a later time.
Thank you. This is an action item. Staff recommends approval of contract with North Star Utility Solution for MeterSense MDMS pilot agreement for amount not to exceed $85,000. Do I have a motion? Dr. Morales, second. Mr. Garcia. All in favor? Aye. Any against? Motion passes. Item number 11. Again, consideration approval of a contract with Cooper Power Systems LLC to install an advanced metering infrastructure system. Mr. Hernandez.
Cooper Power Systems is the actual AMI vendor that will provide all the technology to collect the data, transmit the data, and that's the actual AMI vendor.
This is an action item. Staff recommends approval of a contract with Cooper Power Systems LLC for an amount not to exceed $274,627. Do I have a motion, Dr. Morales? Any second? Mayor Martinez, all in favor? Aye. Any against? Motion passes. Item number 12, consideration approval for authorization for the general manager to negotiate and execute a contract with Black & Veatch for the development of a power supply integrated resource plan. Mr. McCann.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, during the board meeting of April the 11th, Black & Veatch was selected as the engineering firm to provide an integrated resource plan. Black & Veatch's contract and scope of work will include the following items: analysis of the transmission and gas systems, demand-side management and energy efficiency research, capacity expansion, production cost modeling. They will develop an RFP for actual generation and purchase power agreements, and they will assist PUB in holding public meetings as needed and a financial plan update. Recommended action: PUB staff recommends authorization for the general manager to negotiate a contract with Black & Veatch for an amount not to exceed $378,936.
Okay, thank you, Mr. McCann. This is an action item. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Dr. Morales, second.
Second.
Mr. Vasquez, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any against? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Mr. McCann. Okay, item number 13, consideration and action to modify the Brownsville Public Utilities Board website to receive online payments for charitable organizations and to include pet advocates with solutions. And this is...
Eddie, you want to cover that real quick?
We were asked to take a quick look at possibly modifying the PUB website to receive online payments. At this point in time, customers can go online, they can pay their bill and do other things, but it doesn't have the option to donate to some of the charitable organizations that if you get the PUB bill in the mail, there's a flyer attached to it. The request came in to take a look at doing that for PAWS. What we did is it would require a modification of our bill, of the website. What we would do is we would do it for all of the charitable organizations, not just that one. So in other words, any organization that you would see on our flyer, they would all be included, and you would have the ability to donate to any one of them.
Is there a cost and an extensive cost to do this?
I believe on the, I apologize, I didn't.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's $4,200.
Yeah, it was $4,200. That should be about the total cost to modify the website. We really don't receive that much in charitable contributions, just to let you know. But then again, maybe this is a way to help increase that.
And so this is to receive like credit card payments through the website?
Donations.
Well, I mean, through the website, so it would be through credit card, right?
Correct. Or, I mean, we would look at different payment methods. In other words, all the payment methods that are available to you right now, check, credit card,
Check, debit to your checking account.
right, if you chose to do it that way.
So basically, is that expensive to modify our system, $4,200 to be able to allow this type of setup?
Yes, and it takes us about a month to get it done.
Very expensive.
Is it a one-time fee?
It's a one-time thing.
So it allows us to then modify and change whoever, or add to that list without issue as we move forward? Or
Yes.
would that be an additional cost to make that modification?
No.
I'm just surprised of the cost of how much it costs to modify our system. Is that just because we have a complicated website, or what is it?
It's not the website, it's taking the payments and processing them, and modifying, enabling our system to take those payments from those, now they're vendors, from those vendors.
It's a link to Cayenta, just
Yeah.
like if you come in there and pay cash, there's an account for these contributions, so there's a link that.
But right now, we're already accepting credit card to pay for bills, right?
Right, but it's
So
just
to be able to
for us.
distinguish and say, instead of making my PUB bill, I want to do now for this, this, or this. It's
The
that
ISP,
expensive.
yeah.
Right.
Well, just a quick question, like if they pay $10 or whatever it is, and then there's a fee that they charge us, I mean, you pass that on to the donation, or that you give the donation $10 and then we pay but is there 1% fee or something?
How much do we actually can get through that method for charitable contributions?
Not very much. You had something in here.
Yeah, I believe it's attached to the report.
Last year they got $1,754.07 for all of the donations.
For everybody, combined.
Well, usually people donate because people are asking for donations. And if you just have a system out there that accepts credit card, I can understand that facilitates a transaction. But if you're not engaging in the donation request, it's just not going to happen. So that's my opinion. I'm sorry.
I don't think we're in that business to begin with, and that's probably why we only get $1,000. I'm sure that these charitable organizations, all of them I'm sure are worthy, but we're not quite the conduit to get up. Obviously, that's the kind of interest we've had, 1,000 over how long?
Over a year.
That's a year. 1,700 is about, that was last fiscal year, if I remember correctly.
And how many organizations do you have?
I want to say, I'm doing this from memory, I want to say it's about 8 to 10.
I say we table it for right now until we get a different kind of
I
perspective.
second that motion.
Okay, so there's a motion by Mayor Martinez to table. There's a second by Dr. Morales. All in favor?
Aye.
And against, motion passes. Item number 14, consideration approval for the final selection process and weighing criteria for the Robindale wastewater treatment plant design build renovation and expansion project request for proposals. Genoveva, let's go.
Broadus and Associates and PUB staff proposes the evaluation criteria, maximum points and weighing factors provided in the attachment and as discussed in the executive session. Recommended procedure is as follows. Receive proposals by June 22nd, which is next week. Present technical committee evaluation at separate board meeting prior to conducting interviews. Conduct interviews during August board meeting. Each interview will be 20 minutes plus 10 minutes for question and answers. Each board member will rank design build finalists and provide results to the owner representative upon completion of the interviews. The owner representative will compile final score and present the results to the board for approval. And then the board announces the final ranking and selects the design build firm. PUB staff recommends board approval of Robindale wastewater treatment plant design build renovation and expansion project. Request for proposals, final selection process, and weighing criteria.
Okay, this is an action item. So do I have a motion to accept staff's recommendation on approval for the Robindale wastewater treatment plant design build renovation expansion project request for proposal, final selection process, and weighing criteria? Do I have a motion?
I have a motion, but with the change that the interview score by the board of directors be changed from 50 to 25.
There is a motion to accept the recommendation, but changing the interview weighing factor from 15% to 25%. Is there a second?
I second.
There's a second by Dr. Morales. Any discussion?
What was the industry standard on that? I mean,
10 to 30,
20.
10 to 25?
I'm sorry.
The industry standard on,
I've seen anywhere from 5 to 25, but I think Grade and Deaton had a
He said
different
it
set
was
of
up to
numbers.
30%.
I've seen 10 to 30.
So with that change, proposed change on that motion, we pretty much are still within a good criteria as to the technical selection review process, including the interview process.
Yes, sir, I think so.
Okay. So there's a first and a second motion. I entertain now for voting. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any against?
Motion,
Motion.
nay.
One nay from Mayor Martinez. Okay, motion passes. Thank you. Item number 15. Presentation, discussion, and possible action on a resolution adjusting electric rates, fees, and charges to customers of the electric system of the City of Brownsville not to exceed 5%, providing an effective date, providing a severability clause, and providing that a certified, fully executed copy of the resolution be filed with the City Secretary of the City of Brownsville.
the chairman, I make a motion for a recommendation, we table that, to have a workshop the next meeting, and have it on the next agenda.
Okay, so
He asked for somebody to make a motion to table.
yes, I entertain a motion to table this. Mr. Vasquez, Dr. Morales, all in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Okay, we finally reached the consent agenda items. Consent agenda items number 1 through 18.
We just pull item 7, because we gotta cast some lots.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead and pull item 7. So is that it? Okay, so I have entertain a motion to approve consent items number 1 through 18 and disregarding item number 7. Moved by Mayor Martinez, second by Dr. Morales. All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Item number 7, we have consideration approval of bid of work for annual supply of additional general stock.
Air Gas Incorporated. Air Gas.
Somebody wanna make that item?
That it?
Item number 7, Air Gas was,
We need a motion to approve item number 7 with the addition of air gas.
And the casting of lots.
Okay, so I have a motion to approve item number 7, consideration approval of bid of work.
As recommended by the staff,
Right.
with the inclusion of air gas as being
So recommendation by staff with air gas
being selected by law.
being selected by lot. I have a motion.
Second?
Second. Who's the first motion?
I
Mr. Nakara, okay. All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Now I need a motion to adjourn. Is there any public comments? Okay. Mayor Martinez, thank you very much. All in favor? Aye.